Доброе утро. Good morning. Доброй раницы. How is your Russian alphabet going on?
If you want to learn the Russian or Belarusian alphabet and win the first 3 group lessons for free, join our group channel and complete the first simple task. The link to our channel is in the description of this episode.
Natural Russian and Belarusian.
Have you ever been to the Russian or Belarusian countryside? What does life in a Russian village look like? Living in a town or in the countryside? What will you choose? We will delve into all of these questions in this episode. Today, life in the village is not the same as it was even half a century ago. Nowadays, water, gas, internet, post offices, grocery stores, and non-food stores are almost everywhere. But in the past, village life was not easy and meant running a large farm. Our grandparents had to heat a stove even in the summer and twice a day in winter, which meant preparing firewood beforehand. There were also cows, chickens, goats, and other livestock that required constant care. And of course, a garden, the main source of food for the village family. All these things required a lot of hard work. First of all, let's start with the definition of village. Деревня in Russian and вёска in Belarusian. There is a widespread myth that the word village derives from wooden and that settlements are named after wooden houses. However, the word village meant a piece of land that needed to be plowed. This word was used by peasants to describe their settlements several centuries ago, and even earlier. In addition to the word village, we have word synonyms: село, дача, хутор, hamlet in English, поселок, which is settlement, and others. The difference between these words usually lie in their size. Let's go through the most common. The largest settlement was originally called село. A little smaller than that is деревня, village. A settlement consisting of one or several households is called a хутор. The equivalent of хутор in other countries is a farm or a ranch, and even a villa. As for поселок, it refers to small settlements near cities that were mainly formed for work on a particular object. Nowadays, there are no clear distinctions between село and деревня. In Ukraine and Belarus, these words are synonyms with the same meaning. So, which is the largest settlement out of these four? Is the village in the first or second place? Test yourself in our quiz. You will find all the links in the description below this episode. And now, let's discuss the general appearance of houses and their name. Do you know what a traditional Russian house in the village looks like? And how do we call it? It is called izba, a hut in English. Russian izba is a house made of logs where the Slavic people have lived since ancient times. The word izba comes from izba, which means a house or a bath in Old Slavic language. To learn more about the main parts of the Slavic izba and other interesting things about it, don't miss our next episode about Slavic huts. Let's move on. In Belarus, there are a total of 706 villages. In Russia, the number of villages is more than 96,000. 30,845 settlements and 18,156 hamlets. There is a Russian proverb that says, "The city is a kingdom and the village is paradise." Talking to my parents and based on my own experience, I agree with it. Despite all the difficulties of rural life, living in the countryside brings you peace and joy. The nature mesmerizes with its views. Fresh air, your own village vegetables, berries and greens are all here. The village has its special atmosphere. It feels like you are in another world. When I asked my mother, "Mom, what does the village mean to you?" she said, "It is a place of power." All my relatives recall their life in the village with great warmth. To my great joy, I had the opportunity to experience the atmosphere of village life a little bit during my childhood. And now, some honest humor. How else can anyone who lived in the village describe it in one phrase? The toilet is outdoor, dear. Yes, and that is a countryside wonderful life. Dеревня is about running your own livestock: cows, goats, sheep, roosters, and pets, dogs, cats. Some people have geese and horses on their farms. Of course, there is a special smell here, you know what I mean. But these are the things that create a village and make it different from city life. Вёска is about funny and absurd stories, feasts that bring together half the village, where everyone feels like a family member. And when living in a small territory in the big family, nothing can be hidden or concealed. All your flaws are exposed. Village life is about playing folk songs on the accordion by дедушки and singing by our бабушки. It is about catching toads in a pond, digging a garden. Вёска is, instead of a phone alarm clock, the singing of crickets when it begins to get dark. Just listen. A warm, soft wind, the sound of leaves in the forest thicket. The crickets are singing. Calm atmosphere. Village is the place where life perceives and flows differently. Of course, these days things have changed. Since the late 1980s and early 2000s, many people have moved to cities. There were several reasons: better infrastructure, the opportunity to work with a higher salary, better housing and utilities, and more. According to the Russian census, by 2020, almost 25,000 out of the 153,000, which is more than 16% out of 100, rural areas were depopulated. Therefore, my parents were born in the city and came to the village to visit their grandparents only for the summer. Accordingly, I also grew up in a flat. So, the situation was as follows. People moved to cities, some sold their plots of land, others came to the countryside for the summer, and some sold large village plots and purchased summer cottages. Therefore, when I was growing up, most of my friends had their own country plots, also known as summer cottages. For a year we lived in an apartment, and in the summer we came to our dacha, planted crops in spring, and we continue to do it up to now, and harvested them in the fall. Personally, I love the nature and countryside life. But as I grew up in the city, I can adapt to village life for a couple of weeks, then I want to go to the city again, for a week. And after that, I can go to the village again. As we have witnessed the significant migration from countryside to cities over the last 40 years, due to the development of modern life and its conditions, the percentage of people living in villages has decreased significantly. Many villages have been abandoned, resulting in a shortage of workers. The village began to decline, but not until recently. With the beginning of the pandemic in 2021, people started returning to the villages again due to several reasons: persistent viruses, polluted air and water in cities, deterioration of food quality, and other. Fast urban life versus a peaceful village atmosphere. Much cleaner air, lower risk of virus infection, owning controlled natural vegetables, berries, fruits. Seems healthier. The families have started farming again. Apart from the garden, they have brought chickens, geese, sheep, cows. And now many people in the villages sell natural dairy products. They themselves make cheese, curd, sell quail eggs, fresh goat and cow milk. Lots of people do beekeeping. In Russia and Belarus, there are small shops and farms where people sell natural dairy products and meat of their own production. Look for materials in our group. This situation is very encouraging. After all, returning to the villages contribute to a healthier and therefore happy lifestyle. My family often buys homemade cheese, cottage cheese, cow's, goat's milk, and that is really great. Personally, I love countryside life for its incredible landscapes, special quiet atmosphere. You're like in another dimension. I feel absolutely happy in деревня. If you haven't been to Russia or Belarus and in our countrysides, now you are free to do it. Great! And now the most interesting part of this episode. We will go through the 5 must-see villages in Russia and Belarus, which we, country residents, recommend you to visit. And if you are brave enough, you can train your Russian and even Belarusian here talking to the native villagers, who are mostly granddads and grannies. Are you ready? Let's go! First is Varzuga, Murmansk region. The village dates back to the middle of the 15th century. It is an Atlantic salmon fishing center. Second is Большой Кунали, Buryatia. The village of Большой Кунали is located on the banks of the Kunaleyka River. The village appeared at the beginning of the 18th century and since then has lived its measured and calm life. There are only about 1,000 villages there. The peculiarity of the village is its houses. Made of timber, they are all painted in bright colors, with carved shutters and painted fences, resembling a children's fairy tale. Third is Kimzha, Arkhangelsk region. This is the youngest village that bears the title of the most beautiful, received it in February 2017. There are 71 historical monuments here, including the Church of the Icon of the Mother of God, or Digitria, of the early 18th century. Kimzha resembles a museum of wooden architecture, but here everything is real. Strong log huts, wooden mills, large country yards, and a river where locals go fishing. And there are 2 left. These 2 villages are located in Belarus, and they are the places where I live and lived. Fourth, Liskovka, Volozhin district. The houses here are located quite far from each other. It resembles a hutor. There is a field and a forest here. The only thing missing is a church. The places are very picturesque with hilly terrain and neat houses. And the last, but not the least, is Milcha, Gomel district. An ordinary village with its own cemetery, but an unforgettable history for me and my family. My parents spent their entire childhood here. My grandmother grew up there. My great-grandmother lived her whole life in Milcha. This place holds a special place in our heart. I also highly recommend visiting Milcha. Here you will feel the flavor of Slavic villages and plunge into this atmosphere. Great! What are your thoughts about the village life? What things from this episode have you remembered most of all? Are you planning to visit or to move in the village? Or maybe you already live outside the city? Share your opinion about living in the city versus living in the village. What place do you find more comfortable? To see our countryside and learn new vocabulary, join our Natural Russian and Belarusian YouTube channel. If you want to learn Russian or Belarusian language in a joyful and natural way, I am happy to introduce our special starting course. This course is divided into 3 stages. I also have prepared a special material, photos and interesting information of this and other episodes for supporters. To get the extra material, go to buymeacoffee.com, subscribe for our membership and start learning captivating things about Russian and Belarusian language and culture now. До побачення. До свидания. Goodbye.
Thank you.